Let's now speak to Josh Fenton Glynn, a Labour MP elected in 2024. Josh, you there?
Hi there, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good. Do you want to see the Prime Minister lead the Labour Party into the next election?
I think, given the events of today and the local elections, it's very difficult to imagine a world where the Prime Minister leads us into the next election. I think he's done a tremendous amount, both bringing us back to power and also what he's done in power. But when it comes to it, we need some kind of a kind of orderly transition for him to set a bit of a timetable so we've got a bit more certainty and to work out how we get on to a new leader who can lead us to the next election and lead us for the second half of our 5-year term in government. Well, first term.
What does that look like, an orderly transition? Is that I'm going to go in a month, 6 months, by conference, the end of the year? What do we mean when we're talking about a timetable?
I think if he sets a date, and ideally a date that allows us to get all of our best players on the pitch, my general view is that you wouldn't let the England manager only choose players from Liverpool. You'd probably want to let them choose players from, say, Manchester, for example, as well. So I think, if we have the opportunity to have all our best players on the pitch, set a date, and then we try to find the best person to lead the country and the party into the next election.
Do you think that best person is Andy Burnham?
I think we would do well to have as many voices as possible. I don't want to kind of presume, we've got 400 colleagues in the PLP. I'm sure many of whom will think that they're very good. But I also think that Andy Burnham has delivered both as a minister and in an executive role as a mayor. And actually, the business of government is being able to deliver public services from different positions, but also being able to communicate it well. He's clearly one of our best communicators, so it would definitely be a very good option.
Can I ask you a question that somebody's just texted in? Maria says, not Maria. John says, if Andy Burnham did such a good job, why did Labour lose so many councillors in the North West?
We had a really tough election. My council, we lost to Reform, we lost some to Greens as well. I think that it would be not being honest to you to say that that was local issues. I remember the party lines that we got sent said, "Oh, you have to blame local issues." It wasn't. It was that people were frustrated by the pace of change and what they haven't seen. And my initial comment coming out of the elections was that we need to go away and make sure that the change that we're making is stuff that people can feel. And there are things that we've done that I'm incredibly proud of, whether it's some of the changes made to family courts, whether it's lifting 500,000 children out of poverty, or whether it's taking on the water bosses. But we've got a King's Speech coming up, and we need to make sure that we are showing real change, and we need to make sure that we've got the right team at the top to deliver it. And frankly, it doesn't feel like that's the public have confidence in the PM at the moment. So I think we need to listen to that. We need to make sure, that we are doing in as kind of stable and as structured way as possible, getting a timetable on to make that change.
Is that not wishful thinking, though, Josh? That these things are never done in a. The only time I can really think of that happening was when Gordon Brown replaced Tony Blair, and even Tony Blair had to be dragged out over a series of months before Gordon Brown took over. This talk of a timetable is a euphemism for knifing the Prime Minister.
Today has not been the most edifying day in the history of the Labour Party. But what I would say is that, the last government, we had 3 prime ministers in 5 years. And actually, we had them in much, much more dramatic circumstances. Boris Johnson had to accept a police caution. Liz Truss crashed the economy. None of that is the case with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will have a legacy that we can look back on that is a very strong one. But it's quite clear that his voice doesn't cut through, that people don't feel the connection to him, and that comes up on the doorstep as much as anything else. And I think we need to make sure that we're making a change people can feel, but also communicating that change. And we need to make sure that we've got someone in line to do that.
You mentioned the lines to take that you were sent in the wake of the local elections. What are the lines to take that you're being given today to try and shore up the Prime Minister's position?
I'll be honest. I'm never knowingly on message, so I haven't looked at them. But I can't really tell you what they are. But I imagine that they'll assume that you'll hear them at some point later today.
And to the charge from certainly people around Keir Starmer, if not Keir Starmer himself, is that people like you wouldn't have a seat in the House of Commons were it not for him and what he did to turn the Labour Party around after the massive defeat in 2019. And it's a bit much after 2 years and a few bumps along the road for you to come along and say, actually, we want to change again.
I think there's a difference between losing all of your councillors in Kirklees, losing all but one of your councillors in Wakefield, and going down to eight Labour councillors in my native Calderdale, and a few bumps in the road. This is the public sending us a message that they want to feel the change that we're making. They want to be inspired by government, and they want government to speak to them. And if we're not listening to the government when they're telling us that, so if we're not listening to people when they're telling us that, then frankly, we're not doing our jobs properly. It's not bumps in the road, and I recognise that Keir has done a great deal, and I think the country is better for his leadership and better for the fact that he's been prime minister. I also recognise that we've sent a very clear message by the public, and I don't think we should lurch into the next decision like a group of frightened deer. We should be a bit more clear as to what we want to do and have a timetable set out so that we can make sure that we make the right choice and in a kind of deliberative fashion.
So when would you like to see a new Prime Minister in place?
I think by the end of the year at least, but I think we can set out a clear timetable so we know what we're going to do. We're going into the King's Speech tomorrow. There's going to be some really exciting and important bills in that King's Speech. They're going to build on the changes that we've made, over 300,000 cut in hospital waiting lists, huge differences that we're making. But we need to make sure that we've got the right people to lead us through the rest of the Parliament. And, ideally by the end of the year, we've got a clear way forward to do that.
Josh Fenton Glynn, Labour MP for Calder Valley, thanks for joining us.